Hey everyone, it's Sauce, and today I want to talk about some of the backpacking gear that I will never carry again. This is a follow-up to last week's video where I talked about some of the gear that I always carry, so if you haven't already, be sure to check that out. Also, if you like backpacking videos, I put out new ones every Wednesday, so don't forget to subscribe. Of course, there are many items that I will never carry on backpacking trips, so to narrow the focus of today's video, I'm focusing on the word again. These are items that I have carried, but will probably never put back in my pack. I feel like I got pretty lucky on my initial research for the PCT. It was kind of the only thing that occupied my days. I became obsessed. And so I don't think this list is as wild as it could be for someone who kind of maybe just went backpacking on a whim or had backpacked before and maybe not done as much ultralight research. But I've definitely learned my lesson on several pieces of gear in the last 4+ years, over 5,000 miles. And so I thought I'd share some of what I learned with you all today. First up on this list is Subpar rain gear. This includes jackets that are truly just weather resistant that for some reason get thrown around on backpacking gear lists all the time. A lot of these super light rain jackets are really designed for like windbreaker and maybe if you get in a light drizzle on an afternoon run kind of situation, which definitely makes them appealing from a weight saving perspective. And I'm assuming that's why maybe a lot of thru hikers have ended up purchasing and using them. But they aren't going to help you much at all in a true downpour, which is kind of essential if you're going to be out in the backcountry. I would recommend making sure the rain jackets that you're looking at are actually water resistant and not just weather resistant. The language can definitely be a little bit tricky, but it's an important distinction. For me, surprisingly, this also now includes the ultralight frog togs. I know that I sang the frog tog praises for years, and if you've seen my PCT gear list video, this might come as a surprise, but I do still think they're a good solution for a dry desert trail, especially if you're looking for something cheap just to get you started. But if you're going to encounter real rain and you want to invest in your backpacking setup, I just don't really think that they're worth it in the long term. I replaced mine 3 different times on the PCT, and that can feel okay when you're doing it because each time they're like 20 bucks to replace. But over time, that's $60 you spent, and then you probably need to get more for the next hike that you go on. And from a sustainability perspective, that just doesn't sit right with me. I've moved on to investing in rain gear that will last me for an entire thru hike and then some. I do want to make the distinction that I do still like the Frog Tog Java Toed 2.5 pants. They're a more durable material than like those Frog Tog UL jackets that you literally get on the shelf at Walmart. If you're paying a little bit more for Frog Togs, you're probably buying the more durable version rather than the super thin version. The next item I'm never bringing backpacking again is the Sawyer Mini. I get why it exists, and I do love Sawyer so much as a company, and I love and carry my Sawyer squeeze all of the time, but the Mini just isn't worth it for me. I started the PCT with a Sawyer Mini, one of the downfalls of all the ultralight research that I did, and I struggled for so long at so many water sources in the desert while my friends were filtering their water in a reasonable amount of time. Turns out the extra 1 ounce of carrying weight of the Sawyer squeeze is totally worth the years of your life that you will save with a better flow rate. Another item I started the PCT with in 2019 that I will probably never bring anywhere again is a battery-powered headlamp. I definitely struggled with the brightness and specific settings on the particular black diamond headlamp that I brought, and I have heard similar feedback from other people, but in general, I think it's battery-powered headlamps that I also just have a problem with. I'm already carrying a battery pack for my phone and camera, so I really don't need to have a battery-powered item when I can charge my headlamp with that battery pack I'm already carrying. Plus, the one I have lasts like the entire stretch in between towns, so for me, just not worth it. The more that I backpack, the more that I enjoy a good multi-purpose item. And unfortunately for me, a camp cup is just plain redundant. I use a cup when you have a perfectly good pot. I know that there are practical answers to this, they just aren't convincing enough to me. To me, a camp cup fills one very specific purpose, and that is just having a separate container for drinking liquids, and I don't care about that enough to make one worth carrying. The way I see it, what I can put into a camp cup, I can just as easily put into my pot or a water bottle. In my eager preparation for my first ever backpacking trips, I remember wrapping duct tape around my trekking pole handles in my Atlanta apartment. I felt so prepared for my future self who would inevitably need the duct tape for some ingenious gear fix in the backcountry. After wrapping it around my poles, I literally never touched it again. So there are just too many other better tape options for backpacking. I'd turn to Leuco tape or tenacious tape before I'd ever use duct tape for anything. Next is the BRS 3000T stove. The cheap UL stove that everyone either seems to love or hate. This is a very polarizing gear item, it seems. But personally, the quality of the ones that I've tried and had experience with have never lived up to the hype. I think this follows a similar line of thinking to me as the Frog Dogs do. I'd rather not buy a bunch of replacements if I can just invest in something that I know I can trust the quality of. Sure, it's super light and super cheap, but at what eventual cost? It seems to be pretty hit or miss what kind of quality you receive. On the first one I tried, the valve broke, which meant that I had to literally unscrew the stove as the flame was coming out in order to get it to stop, which is obviously not ideal. Josh also tried one before we ever met, and the flex supports on his literally just melted from the heat. But I've also heard from people who have had theirs last for over 2 through hikes, so who knows? I guess if you have one that works, hold on to it. But I personally wouldn't be able to justify buying several just in hopes that I get one that works eventually. And I also don't want to bring something with me that I'm afraid might fail. Next, wireless headphones. This might be an unpopular take, but I don't think I'll ever hike with wireless headphones again. For me, it's just another thing to keep track of charging. And I know I said I like to charge my headlamp, but I've had headphones that die during the day, which also is just kind of annoying. And I only have so many ports on my little external battery pack. So for me, it's just not something that I want to have to worry about. Plus, a perk of wearing wired headphones, I know right away if my phone falls out of my fanny pack. Next is the only thing I fear I might at some point change my tune on. If you've encountered mid-July mosquitoes in certain parts of the country, you may understand my hesitancy to totally renounce DEET. But I do think I've perfected my bug protection to a point where I can finally say goodbye to the toxic gear melting substance that is 100% DEET. Between treating my clothes with Sawyer permethrin, carrying picaridin, and my bug head net, I survived peak snowmelt in the Wind River Range on the CDT without DEET. And if you've seen those mosquitoes, you know that that's a feat. I would love to never put DEET in my pack again, and I think if I stay up to date on treating my clothes and bringing all the other things with me, I won't have to. In dire situations, you can also put on rain pants. Those are just a few of the backpacking gear items I've carried in the past that I don't think I'll ever carry again. I'd love to hear your experience with any gear items that you've come to a similar conclusion on, and please leave any questions you have for me in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.